There are some movies that become classics because they're generally great. There are some movies that become classics because critics decided they are important. And then there are movies like Casablanca, a film that's been praised for so long that modern audiences walk in almost expecting disappointment. I mean, how many times can a movie be called the greatest film ever made before you're almost rooting for it to fail? Today we are looking at Casablanca, a movie made in 1942 during World War II, starring Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. It's a romance, it's a war film, it's a political drama, and somehow it manages to be all three without falling apart. But does it still deserve its legendary status after 80 years later? Let's find out. The premise is deceptively simple. Rick Blaine owns a nightclub in Casablanca, Morocco. He's cynical, detached, and wants everyone to believe that he only cares about himself.
What is your nationality?
I'm a drunkard. When you get there, ask me. Not particularly. I haven't the slightest idea. I understand the point of view of the hound, too. Hey, excuse me, gentlemen. Your business is politics. Mine is running a saloon.
Then his former lover, Ilsa, suddenly walks back into his life with her husband, Victor Laszlo.
Hello, Ilsa.
Hello, Rick.
Oh, you've already met Rick, mademoiselle. I can't get over you two. She was asking about you earlier, Rick.
A resistance leader being hunted by the Nazis.
It's my privilege to be one of the leaders of a great movement.
Victor Laszlo.
Escaped from a concentration camp. The Nazis have been chasing him all over Europe.
Rick now has something he hates more than politics. Feelings. The movie suddenly becomes a conflict between personal feelings and doing the right thing. A premise that has been copied thousands of times since. The funny thing is that modern audiences might find parts of the plot a little predictable, but that's because Casablanca helped create most of those storytelling conventions. It's like criticizing Shakespeare for being full of cliches. The cliches came from him. What works? Humphrey Bogart. Let's start with Bogart, because this movie absolutely does not work without him. Rick is basically the prototype for every cynical anti-hero that came after him. The guy who acts like he doesn't care. The guy who is emotionally wounded. The guy who is secretly better than he wants people to believe. Without Rick Blaine, you probably don't get Han Solo. You don't get half the noir detectives that followed. You don't get a huge chunk of modern leading men. Bogart's greatest strength here is restraint.
You said I was to do the thinking for both of us. Well, I've done a lot of it since then. It all adds up to one thing. You're getting on that plane with Victor where you belong.
Modern actors often treat emotional scenes like opportunities to win awards. Bogart treats emotional scenes like opportunities to hide emotions, which actually make them hit harder. Every smile feels forced. Every sarcastic remark feels like armor. You can feel the heartbreak underneath everything that he says. The dialogue. The movie is ridiculously quotable. Even people who have never seen it know lines from it.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. We'll always have Paris.
The remarkable thing isn't just that the lines are memorable, it's that they actually work within the story. A lot of classic movies have famous dialogue that seem theatrical by modern standards.
Are you awake or do you want some more water? You must be proud of my hangover.
Casablanca somehow avoids that problem. The dialogue feels sharp, elegant, effortless. Every character sounds intelligent without sounding unrealistic. That's an incredibly difficult balance. The supporting cast. One reason the film ages so well is that the world feels alive. Captain Renault could have been a generic comic relief character. Instead, he's one of the most entertaining figures in the movie.
That is the reason we permit you to remain open.
Oh, I thought it was because I let you win at roulette. I just paid out 20. I'd like to get it back.
Make it 10. I'm only a poor, corrupt official.
Claude Rains steals nearly every scene he is in. He's corrupt, cowardly, funny, charming, and somehow likable despite being all those things. Then there's Victor Laszlo, a character who should be boring. The perfect husband archetype usually creates a problem in love triangles because the audience naturally wants him gone. but Laszlo is genuinely admirable, which makes Rick's dilemma much more complicated. The themes. This is where the film earns its reputation. At its core, Casablanca is about sacrifice, specifically choosing something larger than your own happiness. Rick spends most of the film pretending that ideals don't matter. The story systematically destroys that worldview. What's fascinating is that the movie never presents sacrifice as easy. The ending hurts. That's why it works. If doing the right thing felt good all the time, it wouldn't mean much. The ending. Let's be honest. The airport scene is probably one of the greatest ending scenes ever filmed. Not because it's surprising. Most viewers can see where things are heading. It's great because it's emotionally inevitable. Everything in the film leads to that moment. The characters make choices that feel true to who they are. And when the credits roll, it feels complete. Hollywood often mistakes happy endings for satisfying endings. Casablanca understands the difference. So what doesn't work? The romance can feel rushed. This is probably the biggest issue for most modern viewers. Rick and Elsa's relationship relies heavily on the audience believing that they had a legendary romance in Paris. The flashback scenes do help.
Who are you really, and what were you before?
Richard, they'll find out your record. It won't be safe for you here.
But compared to modern storytelling, it can still feel a little underdeveloped. We are told these two had a life-changing relationship. We believe it mostly because Bogart and Bergman sell it so well, not because we spend enough time seeing it. A modern version would probably devote much more time showing the relationship evolve in the film. Ilsa isn't as strong as a character as she could be. This is when the film starts to show its age. Ingrid Bergman is excellent, but Ilsa often functions more as a symbol than a fully developed character. The story revolves around her, yet she frequently feels less active than Rick or Laszlo. She's caught between two men and spends much of the film reacting to events. Modern viewers may wish she had more agency, more opportunities to drive the plot herself. Some pacing issues. The first act is excellent at establishing atmosphere, but modern viewers accustomed to faster editing may find some portions in the film a bit slow. The movie likes to linger. Characters talk. A lot. Entire scenes are built around conversations rather than actions. Personally, I think most of these scenes work, but there's no denying that audiences raised on contemporary filmmaking may need some patience watching the film. The plot sometimes relies on conveniences. The famous letters of transit are basically magical plot coupons. Everybody wants them. Everybody fears them. And the film asks very few questions about how they actually work. It's not a huge issue because the film isn't about bureaucracy, but if you're looking closely, the mechanics become a little fuzzy. Why it still holds up. What's amazing about Casablanca isn't that it's perfect, it's not. The romance could be deeper. Ilsa could be stronger. The pacing occasionally drags, but almost everything that works at an incredibly high level. The dialogue is brilliant. The performances are iconic. The themes remain timeless. Most importantly, the film understands human nature. People are messy. Love is complicated. Doing the right thing often hurts. Those ideas don't age. Technology changes. Filmmaking trends change. Human beings don't change nearly as much. That's why audiences are still watching this film over 80 years later. Casablanca isn't merely a great film. It's one of the rare classics that are actually readily available to modern viewers. You don't have to study film history to appreciate it. You don't have to excuse its flaws because it's old. It genuinely works, even today. Not because it's perfect, it's because its strengths are so overwhelming that it overshadows merely every weakness. A nearly perfect film with unforgettable performances, masterful dialogue, and one of cinema's greatest endings. And unlike many classics, it earns every bit of its reputation. Well, that was Casablanca. Probably one of the greatest films ever made. I believe so. It's definitely has great acting and great screenwriting. Yes, some sections might be a little dated to modern viewers, but if you look at it with a fresh lens and an unbiased opinion, then you will probably enjoy the film. Go watch it for yourself and see how great the film is.
He's looking at you, kid.